This episode of The Feral Mammy is brought to you by Bumps and Banya, supporting you through pregnancy, birth, and beyond with antenatal education, hypnobirthing, birth doula care, breastfeeding support, and baby sensory classes across the northeast of Ireland, covering Louth, Monaghan, Cavan, and Meath. Real preparation, real support, no fluff, just care that actually holds you. Hello and welcome back to the Feral Mammy podcast. Okay, so picture this, your baby's in your arms, still that beautiful brand new, baby smell, oxytocin inducing, magical, absolute magic it is. And you're thinking to yourself, I need to remember every single moment of this. The tiny little fingers, the scrunched up toes, the way that they kind of like just bundle themselves up. And it moves so fast and so slow at the same time. I remember actually a nurse saying to me once, she said, the days are long, but the years are fast. And I was like, yeah, the days are just long. And then because life is chaotic and you haven't slept since, well, whenever, before you got pregnant with your first baby, you blink and they're suddenly asking for snacks every 6 seconds and then rolling their eyes at you. And this is exactly why this week's guest matters. I'm joined by Selina Donnelly, the woman behind Pitter Patter Studios, a baby, family and dog photography studio based in Kilmessan, County Meath. And when I say she captures the moments, I mean she catches the ones that you didn't even realise that you would miss until they're gone. Selina specialises in photographing newborns and new parents and preserving all those teeny tiny details, the ones that change in what feels like overnight. Those soft rolls, the squishiness, the sleepy stretches, the way your whole world fits into two hands. And for Selina, this is not just a business, it's personal. She's a mum of 3 herself with kids now 8, 10 and 12. So she knows exactly how fast it all moves. 1 minute you're in the newborn bubble and the next you're wondering where the years went and clutching photos like they're time machines. So this conversation is about more than pictures. It's about memory, motherhood and holding on to the moments that feel like they might slip through your fingers. So you're very welcome, Selina. How are you today?
Thanks, Aoife. I'm good. I'm delighted to be here today. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, it's such a lovely time in people's lives. Like I know my own kids and they're only like, what, 7 and 9. And, occasionally they'll pose for a photo, but more often than not, the poses they want to do are not like cutesy little ones anymore. They want to be like aliens or football or
Yeah,
jumping off something, and, they're not really the ones you frame and hang on your
yeah.
wall.
Sounds like my young fella as well.
Yeah, and it's lovely. It is lovely as well. And they're moments that you want to keep forever as well. But
Yeah.
like I say, they're not really frameable moments. They're ones you watch back on your phone over and over instead.
Yeah.
So look, let's jump into the questions here, Selina.
Okay.
You capture families at such a vulnerable and tender moment in time. What do you feel your role really is in those early days of parenthood?
I guess I probably have a dual role. So like the first one being the obvious role, capturing all the tiny details. So the as moms, we all know that stage goes by so quickly and they change so quickly. So what's so precious about a newborn photography session is capturing all those tiny details, like you mentioned earlier, their little tiny toes and the little eyelashes and their little button noses. So a big part of that is just capturing all of those details. But I think the other important part that a lot of people mightn't think about is I have a role in slowing everything down. So those first couple of weeks when I typically see new parents, so usually newborn sessions are held within the first 2 weeks, ideally,
Yeah.
and everything can feel very overwhelming. Parents are exhausted, their whole world has changed overnight, and they're still trying to figure out what exactly their new role is. I remember when I had my first, she came on time, but she was just a very small baby. So she was only 5 pounds, 12 ounces. And I worried a lot about her because she was so small. I was feeding her myself and I worried, was she feeding enough? Was I giving her enough? And even when she slept, I was actually checking to see was she still breathing. And I just couldn't relax. Like all those like little noises they make. I think especially because she was so small, she made even more noises than my other two boys. But all the noises that she made, I was just like on high alert to those all the time, and I just could not relax at all. And I think, I back then, like she's just about to turn 13. So that's a while ago now. And newborn photography wasn't as a big thing. And I wasn't even myself as aware of it back then. And I think if I was and I was going to have a newborn session myself back then, I would have felt quite overwhelmed about it. So I really strive when my clients are coming to me to give them space where they can just breathe. So just be with their baby, be present in the moment, and not the pressure of feeling like they have to perform or they have to have it all together. I want them to enjoy the whole experience with me. So yes, like the end result is super important. I want people to love their photos. I want them to hang them on their walls to see them every time they walk past them. But I want them to also enjoy the experience about getting there as well. So I will provide gentle guidance to parents for poses that they'll feel natural and comfortable in. But I do want it to be about the whole experience and having the whole family together in the studio. And I know a lot of moms will say to me they almost didn't book, like they felt all over the place. They didn't think they were up to it. But I think that's exactly why these sessions matter so much.
Yeah.
I want them to be able to look back at the photos and have them transported right back to this time when they were here and at that age, and remember all the feelings about how they felt when they were here as well. So I think for me, it's just about like when my clients come to me at that stage, just providing reassurance and holding space for them, and just quietly capturing what's there. So the love and the connection between them, and sometimes even the like in between moments that they mightn't even realize are happening.
And you know what, Selena, like you've hit the nail right in the head there, like where you talk about like holding space for, families because like those first couple of weeks at home, like God, I hope my kids never listen to this, but I remember looking at my husband on our first night home, and the two of us are there staring at this screaming baby. And I looked at him and I said,
What have we done?
we've ruined our lives. Do you know that? It wasn't even a what have we done? It was we've ruined our lives, very matter of factly.
Yeah,
And like, like I talk a lot around kind of like brain chemistry and things like that, and the way that, a woman's brain changes so much through pregnancy and matrescence.
yeah,
And a lot of those feelings that can feel an awful lot like anxiety and can present themselves as anxiety are actually also really, really normal, like that
yeah,
hovering over your baby, wondering if they're getting enough,
yeah,
wondering, every little noise that they make, Googling it. Okay, so like there's no bears out in the woods, Googling, what's this noise? But there is like that's part of that protective role that it develops within us.
yeah,
And it's so lovely to be able to like just take the moment to sit back and allow them to just settle into family mode.
yeah,
Not to have to be kind of like on high alert for, whatever the predator or danger, perceived might be, and just to do that. And like,
yeah,
and then they've got like the body image thing as well. Like, you've literally just had a human either exit or be removed from your body with force,
yeah.
you know, and on top of that, there's all of, the usual body changes, and like nobody snaps back.
No,
Nobody does.
no.
Um, and that even that part where you're like, I almost didn't come like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And I know
And it's
that's why
also
I never booked newborn photography.
yeah,
And it's like it was one of my great regrets in life. And I don't have too
yeah,
many. But one of
yeah,
my great regrets in life is not having done that, because I would have loved to have had some really nice breastfeeding photos.
yeah. I know. Something that
Um,
you can never do again once that stage
yeah.
is
Oh, see,
past.
that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Mm, yeah.
Um,
I have a lot of new like first time moms. most of my clients will be first time moms, and I just have so much respect for them that they have done this, and not just like the way I was on my first, just totally kind of overwhelmed and trying to get used to things at home, but that they're brave, they come here and then they do enjoy the experience and then they have those photos for life. And it's just lovely to see those.
And I actually think it's a really lovely gift to give someone as
It is.
well,
Yeah.
because it gently, I don't like the word force, but it gently encourages them to step a little bit outside of that comfort
Yeah.
and do something that, yes, you're doing it for the pictures, but you're also doing it for yourself to have that time, to have that memory, and to have those kind of eternal memories then from that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's a lovely thing to do as a family.
Yeah. Selena, you were talking there about how quickly the time passes, and how is there is there any like moment in your motherhood journey where all of a sudden you just looked at your kids or something like that and it was just like, oh my God, you know,
Yeah, I'm probably having that quite a lot now, but I think one that kind of stands out for me where I kind of went, oh my God, I'm kind of coming to the end, I suppose, of the baby stage was the last time that breastfed my youngest. So I have three kids, and my youngest actually just turned 9 there 2 weeks ago. And I loved breastfeeding my kids. Like I remember when I was pregnant the first time, I knew I wanted to do it, but I didn't know would I be able to do it. And I just loved it, and I did it with the three. And when I had Matthew, I knew he was my last child. So when it came to the last feed, I knew it was the last feed ever, and it felt very different than when I was doing the last feed for my first two. So I still vividly remember sitting on my couch, and he had already like he'd finished feeding. He had actually fallen asleep, and I just didn't have the heart to unlatch him. I was like, this means the end of it. And I just remember sitting there in tears thinking, like, this is such a big, quiet ending. I'm never going to get to experience this again. And now that baby is 9. And yeah, I can't believe how quickly time passed. Like, I remember going back to my work at the time. I used to work in eBay. I was a project manager and I was going back to work after my maternity leave with him. And I remember having a one to one with the sponsor of the project I was taking on at the time. And I hadn't worked with her before, so she was asking me, the usual questions. And when it came up if I had children, I remember I used to be always saying, I have 305. And now I'm like, well, my youngest is 9. And I'm like, where did that time pass? Yeah, it's crazy. But I think that really, that's why I feel so strongly about what I do now. Like, I know that the kind of everyday moments, just like you were saying there a minute ago, that kind of feel endless are actually the ones that pass by the fastest. And, at least I'm so glad myself when I look back now. As having a mom as a photographer, my kids get dragged in here quite often. So I have a lot of photos of my own children.
oh yeah, that's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice. I've like my walls, I'm kind of running out of space in my home though, because I have just frames and pictures of them everywhere. And a lot of them are when they were younger like that. And I'm like, at some point, do I have to take them down and start making them more recent? But I don't want to.
Funny, this is something that I was thinking about a lot over the last couple of weeks. So I was doing up my sitting room and taking down photos that were hung. Now, I swear to God, it's like I hung them in the dark after like spinning around and around for an hour. They're so crooked, and everyone commented on it when they came into the house. But I took them all down, and my husband was like, "Now, Aoife, you're not hanging all of those photos back up." And I was like, well, like, and then I looked around and I've all these like baby photos, but very few, other than like the usual school photos where they're like,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, other than those photos, I don't really have any printed ones. And then I was like, is this a thing where you just like hold on to the most sacred ones and
Yeah.
then, you know,
Yeah.
and,
Maybe
and
see, I
then,
think,
and when they go through that like kind of awkward
yeah.
point of life as well. And I kind of
Yeah.
feel like it kind of starts maybe at about 11, where it's almost like they've got these adult teeth, but still got like a child's face. And then, they've also got all of like this, kind of like hormones and
Yeah.
self. and it can
Yeah.
last for years and it is tough on them.
Yeah.
But being able to have a nice photo of them in that era where you can say, look at how gorgeous you actually
Yeah.
are, because
Yeah.
you are like, like they are our masterpieces. They
Yeah.
really are.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I think I suppose now as well, kids get access to phones from such a they're used to the selfie photographs, and I think for them they somehow see that differently. Sending those photos than actually us printing something and putting it on a wall is a little bit different. So I think their generation as well, it's sometimes harder to convince them when they start getting that age.
Like they're fine with something being online for all of
Yeah.
eternity and everyone being able to see it,
Not in the family
whenever
wall.
they want. But God forbid it would be up in your living room.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so embarrassing.
So, Selena, when a parent looks back on the photos that you've taken with them years later,
Yeah.
what do you hope that they feel, not just see?
Um, so I guess, well, I do want them to obviously look at the details as well. So I want them to notice probably details that they've forgotten by now. So if it was a newborn photo shoot and they're looking back at it in a few years' time, they've probably forgotten just how small they actually were and all of their tiny little features. So I do want them to be able to look at the photo and see that. But I would also hope that they can also feel what it was like at the time. So feel what it was like to hold their baby, have the weight of them in their arms, and have like the feel the way they used to kind of curl right into the little nook on your arm. Because I think all those early days go by in such a blur, and you're so tired and you're adjusting, and at the time you don't realize that you're in the middle of something so fleeting. So I would hope that when they look at the photo, it takes them right back into that moment, even just for a second, and that they can feel the connection that was there when we took that photo, and that they're able to feel that in a kind of soft, nostalgic way rather than overwhelming, even though it might have been a little bit overwhelming at the time. So I think if a photo can do that and kind of transport them right back, then it's done its job. I know, like I had both my boys in the studio. Actually, I'm only here for 10 years, so I had my youngest in my own studio. I had my middle boy. A very kind friend photographer let me use her studio when I didn't have mine. But for Sophie, I didn't. I didn't even really know about newborn photography as much back then, so I didn't get the chance to do it. But I made up for that by taking photos just on my phone and on my camera just at home. And because she was my first, I think we're all guilty of this. I probably documented every single moment of her life. So I have so many photos of her, but like I do love looking back, and because I have so many of these photos of her and with her, I can really remember everything that was happening at the time and everything that I went through at the time, and I just love looking through those photos now.
And it is, it's lovely. Like you, my now 9-year-old turned 9 there last Monday, and he came into me like they're, both of my boys are still very snuggly, and I
Yeah,
really hope it never changes, but I
I
know it
know.
probably will.
Yeah,
But he came in and he was lying across me like the length of him, he's nearly as tall as I am, and I said, how did you used to fit in one arm? How
yeah,
did you used to fit there? I was like, yeah, I was huge when I was pregnant. I was like, but you weren't huge. Like you were, a tiny little squish once upon a
yeah,
time. And it's funny, like I look back on so many photos and I wish A that I had been in more of them.
yes, yeah, big thing.
So many photos of the boys with their dad, with their cousins. And I'm like,
Oh,
I would say this always. I'm like, get in the photos because A, nobody is judging what you look like when you've
mm,
just had a baby.
yeah,
And B, you will want to look back on this
definitely.
and you will look back on it with a kindness for that woman.
Yeah,
That self-compassion, and you're so hard on yourself in those early days because
yeah,
you feel under pressure to do everything absolutely perfectly. And yet, it's a little bit like uh, what's her name? Ferreira, can't think of her first name, in Barbie, her monologue.
oh, Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a lot. I haven't actually seen the new Barbie baby, so nothing is familiar in my.
like she does this monologue around like the difficulties of being a woman and all this, and I'm like, yes, I absolutely get this. And it's this whole idea of constantly trying to be perfect but yet never ever hitting the bar, and it's the bar, unfortunately, that we are setting for
Yeah,
ourselves.
exactly. Yeah.
you know Keep your expectations at rock bottom.
Yes, I've heard you say this.
Rock
I'll be
bottom. You
disappointed.
will not be disappointed.
It's a good place to start.
Yeah. And like it's it's so hard to be. I just think it's so hard to be a woman anyway. And I know
Yeah,
I can say that in the circles of the women who listen to this podcast too,
yeah,
because they likely feel it as well. But that pressure to snap back, to look good, to look a
yeah.
certain way for those photos. You are obviously very much holding space for them. Do you give suggestions around like what to wear or anything like that to and not to change
Yeah.
anything about these new moms or anything like that, but for them to feel more confident?
Yeah, so when any family books with me, so it wouldn't just be for a newborn shoot, I would always give advice on what to wear, and mainly it's more about having the family look as a unit rather than clashing with each other. So if I don't give any advice, you could have one person coming with, say, actually, I have a kind of a logo on my top this morning. So, like, say, a big logo, and then someone else comes with like stripes, and somebody else comes, and the family doesn't look like a family. You're instantly clashing with each other. So, my advice is quite simple, kind of advice when it comes to clothing, as in, it's for newborn actually whites and blacks and or kind of creams. They work really, really well. And for newborn photography, my photos would tend to be more upper body than full body. So I guess, different types of photo shoots kind of get different types of advice. So if you compare to, say, a family getting their photos done for communion or confirmation, most likely we've all gone out and bought an outfit. So it'd be nice to get that captured as well. So we might have some full body ones for that. And then for something like that, I wouldn't give as much advice on what to wear because people are kind of buying their outfit for the day as opposed to just for the photo shoot. But for newborns, I tend to give advice about just kind of simple, like trying all dress in like whites or blacks tops and just jeans or say cream trousers or something like that. And something that they're comfortable in. Because obviously we don't want them in anything where they're feeling kind of uncomfortable. And then I would just give advice on the day then as well, kind of gentle advice for posing. So nothing too, like I suppose like you were kind of mentioning there, the school portraits too, very like this way and turn your head this way and put your hands this way, not, because people just feel so uncomfortable and you can physically see that in the photos. So it's more about getting them into comfortable and natural positions where they can kind of just then relax and be present with their family. So yeah, I suppose that's kind of the advice I would give to people. It's kind of gentle and not too much, but not that they're kind of sitting there going, oh, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, it's just such a lovely, like, I know I keep saying the same thing. It's such a lovely memory. It's such a lovely memory. But like it really is. And I'm thinking, even there where you're talking, I'm thinking of the people who I know who've had these newborn sessions. And like I said, that I so regret. And I remember even at the time thinking, what a waste of money. And it really isn't. It's not. And like when you think about the things that people do spend money on,
Yeah,
like a thing that rocks your baby, or like there's so many of them,
yeah, yeah,
like and some of them absolutely give, peace of mind and things like that. And like that is priceless, particularly if you're someone who kind of like is,
yeah,
naturally anxious or anything
yeah,
like that. But I say it more so in like kind of relation to like antenatal education and things like that. I'm like, people have no problem going out and spending 30,000 euro on a wedding day. I'm
yeah.
like, but the
That's
day that you
over.
give birth, you're not really willing to part with 300 euro for an antenatal class.
Yeah,
Or, you know, I'm like, kind of like priorities here, people. Come on.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, they can be quite skewed. But then, then you will have the people like you're saying, then like I do get it myself. People reach out to me at say the baby's like say 6 months or a little bit older and they're like, we didn't do it and we really regret it. Is it too late to do it? I'm like, well, it's never too late to do it. We're just not going to get those tiny little curled up sleepy poses, but we're going to get like the personality as they are today.
And I did do that.
Yay.
Did do that, and I love them. Like he's like sitting up on a little throne and things like that. Like, and they're gorgeous.
Yeah, that's
Um,
great.
and
Yeah.
because again, you have to wait then kind of for that in-betweeny stage, don't you, to pass
Yeah.
really,
Yeah, yeah.
until they are a little
It's
bit.
a nice stage, yeah, when they get. No, I did. I've had a couple of babies here recently, like around the 3 month stage, and they were actually really nice as well because that's kind of when they're just kind of really starting to smile, and they might be a little strong enough to do a bit of tummy time as well, and we can get photos in their back and stuff. So I always kind of when people say is now a good time, I always just say every time is a good time because we're capturing their personality as they are at the moment. So what's wrong with that?
And the other thing I will say to people is, don't think that you can just post these photos yourself. We've all seen the Instagram versus reality ones.
Yeah.
But I remember my friend Hannah saying to me, she was like, "Do you think you might bring over your camera?" I said, I have a great camera. I'm no photographer, but I do have, I have a great camera. Um, will you bring over your camera and take some photos? And I was like, sure. And I always think of that one of the little baby, kind of all scrunched up in the little Tonka truck,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Oh
then it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
and the baby's like face palm down into it. And I'm like, that's exactly what we got. We got those ones where the baby looks like they were dropped.
Oh, very good.
So, but then I have also taken for her when she had her last baby. I remember going out to see her, and I was out to see her like in my capacity as a lactation consultant as well as
Yeah.
friend. And you know, she was like, I just don't think I'm cut out for this breastfeeding, and so I took some photos of her just with my phone,
Oh,
and they are the most beautiful photos. And that's what I mean when I say take all the photos,
yeah.
have
Yeah.
those photos, and not just selfies. Here we are in IKEA,
Yeah.
here we are in,
Yeah. But that was
picking
the connection
strawberries.
that made that because she was feeding and it was the connection in the photo that
That's
yeah
it.
made it so
Yeah.
strong. Yeah.
And look, the posed photos are lovely,
Yeah.
but
But a lot of the time as well, I think people think post photos means, you know, staring into the
yeah,
camera. And a lot of the things that I do for newborn photography are not like that. And part of that comes from, I think, the fact, like what you were mentioning there, that a lot of women, when they're coming, might feel a little bit anxious about being in front of the camera. So I think by taking away that stress, maybe, of looking at the camera. So a lot of the photographs that I would take a newborn are like the parents kind of facing each other with like the baby laying out in their arms, kind of cradled in their hands, and they're facing each other. Or even like shots where the baby's like lying down and the parents are holding, their hands behind their heads. So there can be a lot of different connection photos and involvement with the parents without having, I suppose, what most people traditionally think, oh, I'm going for photo shoots, so I have to look straight at the camera all the time. And that's not always necessary. And sometimes actually the connection in the ones where they're looking at the baby or they're looking at each other as they're holding the baby, they can often be stronger than the ones where everyone's looking at the camera.
yeah, and like that's you know, I'm just there thinking, like it's not the image alone that you capture, it's
Yeah,
the emotion, it's the feeling.
yeah,
So, Selena, if you were, or if there's a mom out there listening, maybe she's pregnant, maybe she's about to have her baby, maybe she's already had it, and she's thinking, I don't feel camera ready, I don't feel like myself. What would you want her to know?
she's not alone, number one, and that pretty much every other mother out there, new mom, is thinking the same thing. And that just not to wait because there's never going to feel like that right time, or they're never going to exactly feel like they're ready. So I think it's, just trust that, everyone, all myself and all my colleagues who are doing this job, we're all very passionate about newborn photography and we're all very experienced in working with new moms, and most of us are moms ourselves and we've went through this before. We understand exactly how you feel and we're there to guide you. So I think really just don't miss out on your opportunity to get the photos. book in and trust in your photographer that they will help guide you through the experience. Like I've never had somebody come to me and regret getting the photo. So it's not something that you're going to regret. So I think it's just something, don't let your own battle with your mind, I guess, just take control and do it because you're not going to regret it. Those are the photos that your baby will want to look back on someday, and they'll definitely want to see you in it as well as just them.
Absolutely. And, you know, like feel the fear and do it anyway. Like I have, I suppose, suffered with body image issues for most of my life. And then I hit 40 and I don't know if I've ever referred to turning 40 as this on the podcast, but I call it the emancipation of fucks, where you just stop giving them. And like like I prance around and by no means do I have what you would call a picture perfect body. I prance around in my bikini and I do not care what anyone else is thinking. If they're looking that closely, either look away or enjoy what you're seeing. Like I just, it was like turning 40 was just such a revelation for me. And I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah. And I wish I'd had that confidence when I was a new mother,
Yeah.
because literally all I cared about was what everyone else thought. What would people think if I gave a dodie? What would people think if I didn't lose the weight? What would people think?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and and the reality is it doesn't really matter because what other people think is none of your business.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Selina, this has been such a beautiful and grounding conversation. There is something just so powerful about being reminded that in those little ordinary moments that we live through in that newborn period, that they're the ones that we will absolutely ache to remember, where we had that time with our babies, where we had that time with our partners as well,
Yeah.
particularly on that first baby. I think it hits just a little bit different. So
Yeah.
thank you for holding that so gently and sharing your perspectives with us.
No,
Before we finish up, will you let everyone know where they can find you, see more of your work, and more importantly, book with you?
yes, of course, Eva. So my website is www.pitterpatterstudios.com, and I am also on Instagram and on Facebook as Pitter Patter Studios. So you can direct message me through there or send me an email through my contact form on my website, and we can talk about your booking experience from there.
Amazing. So to anyone who is listening, if today stirred something up in you, made you feel a little bit emotional or reflective, I don't think there was anything really triggering in today's chat, but know that you're not alone in that. If you regret getting those photos, then get them now, you know, and print off a heap of the ones that are on your phone.
Oh
If
yeah, yeah,
some of them are beautiful in their ordinariness as well. These seasons, particularly those early seasons of motherhood, can be so beautiful and yet heavy all at once. So, always be aware of the supports that are out there. Quid you, if you're breastfeeding, and if you're not breastfeeding, quid you. Also Friends of Breastfeeding, La Lesh League. There's a lot of those out there. There's lots and lots of other, support groups out there. Like I said, these are trying days and long days, but as we have talked about today, they don't last forever and then they're gone in the blink of an eye. So mind yourselves, be kind to yourselves, and as always, stay feral.